this video we will review some facts about the red flying fox. But before we start, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for future updates. The little red flying fox is an outlier in Australian wildlife. Despite its eccentricity, it is not only harmless but also adorable. As a result, it stands out among Australian animals, which have a bad reputation for being dangerous. These 40 small red flying fox facts can help you learn more about them. Little red flying foxes have a striking appearance. Their bodies have been covered in red-brown fur that is spotty on the lower legs. The color of the fur on the skull also varies, turning to various degrees of gray. Similarly, some specimens have white or cream-colored fur patches on their shoulders. They may also have yellow fur spots between the white or cream-colored patches. When spread for flight, their wing membranes become a light brown color and become translucent. However, the hue of the small red flying fox simply distinguishes it from other species, such as the gray-headed flying fox and the black flying fox. Little red flying foxes are quite similar to big-eared flying foxes. In reality, big-eared flying foxes are just slightly taller than little red flying foxes, although weighing more on average. The big-eared flying fox has almost the same wingspan as the little red flying fox. Contrary to popular belief, the big-eared flying fox has a shorter ear than the little red flying fox. The big-eared flying fox has an ear length of 37 mm at most, compared to 40 mm for the small red flying fox. Aside from physical measurements, the two species have similar colors, with the exception of the big-eared flying fox, which is entirely brown. It also lacks the different colored fur on the head and white patches on the shoulders of the little red flying fox. Big-eared flying foxes, on the other hand, have yellow spots on their shoulders and bellies. They have a diverse range of environments as well. In fact, the small red flying fox has the most diverse range of habitats of any Australian bat. Their range includes the eastern and northern shores of Australia, as well as the interior. Scientists believe they may have spread throughout the entire continent if not for the arid climate of Australia's interior. Because of their small stature, they are extremely vulnerable to heat, and can succumb to dehydration and even heat stroke. As a result, they have been restricted to the tropical and subtropical regions of Australia's coasts, as well as the temperate sections between the desert and the coasts. Red flying foxes do not echolocate. Given how echolocation has become an iconic talent for bats, this revelation may come as a surprise. Echolocation is as simple as an animal emitting a high-frequency burst of sound and uses the echoes to map its surroundings. It also enables them to identify and even track any other creatures in their vicinity. To compensate for the diminished utility of sight, animals that dwell in dark and poorly lit habitats have this ability. However, because the small red flying fox evolved to live in the open, unlike other bats, its ancestors' echolocation skill has long since been lost. This also implies that, unlike other bats, little red flying foxes have excellent vision. Scientists believe they can perceive and distinguish between hues, unlike cats and dogs. Their travels are primarily dictated by the seasons. For one reason, as previously stated, little red flying foxes dislike the heat. This means that they travel with the seasons in order to maintain their optimal temperature range. When they migrate, they do it in massive swarms, with experts estimating the smallest swarm to contain 20,000 creatures. These migratory swarms can contain over 1 million animals at their peak. So many animals living and moving together naturally necessitate a large amount of food. This causes them to migrate in the same way, taking into account the abundance of fruits and flowers that little red flying foxes eat. When the little red flying fox's current home runs out of food, they will migrate to search new food. They play a significant role in their surroundings. Scientists have just found that small red flying foxes are pollinators. This is due to their diet containing a variety of flowers, the pollen from which gets on the animal's fur while they feed. The pollen is dispersed by the little red flying foxes as they go from bloom to flower, contributing to the life cycles of the flowering plants. In fact, the little red flying fox's job as a pollinator isn't restricted to the area in which it lives at any given time. Instead, it's consistent across the entire Australian continent. As a result, experts have designated him as a keystone species whose extinction would devastate the Australian ecology. Little red flying foxes eat a variety of foods. Their main source of food is the blooms of the eucalyptus and bloodwood trees, both of which rely largely on the reproduction of the little red flying fox. Because both types of trees have uneven blossoming seasons, this contributes to the animal's migratory habits. Little red flying foxes graze on the blossoms of paperbark trees in addition to eucalyptus and bloodwood plants. While they usually graze on the previously named flowering plants, little red flying foxes will eat any flower they come upon in the wild. They also feed on various fruits that they discover, albeit they are not as reliant on fruits as other fruit bats. Mataranka Hot Springs is home to a large population of small red flying foxes. It's also known as Elsey National Park, and it's located in northern Australia about 10 kilometers east of Mataranka. The hot springs allude to the Mataranka thermal pools, which also have extensive bamboo groves. Despite the heat, the little red flying foxes thrive near the pools, sleeping on the bamboo and feasting on their blossoms. The presence of the little red flying foxes has actually grown unpleasant in the park, as their droppings have significantly littered the area. This not only creates a hygienic danger, but it also produces a foul odor that deters park visitors. However, environmental laws prevent park officials from driving the bats out of the park, so the bats can stay as long as they wish. The breeding habits of little red flying foxes are distinct. The mating season starts in October and lasts 2 months, from November to December. During this time, females will swarm to males, who will construct harems of females with whom they will mate repeatedly. The swarms will split along gender lines at the end of the mating season, with pregnant females collecting together separately from the males. Little red flying foxes are pregnant for 4 to 5 months before giving birth the following March or April. The newborn red flying foxes remain with their moms until the next mating season begins. After a year, the juveniles leave their mothers and establish their own swarm, which sexually matures after another year. They then reproduce in the same manner as the rest of their species. They can also communicate in a variety of ways. Scientists are still baffled by the communication mechanisms of the little red flying foxes. They are aware that the animals primarily communicate by a variety of sounds, ranging from those audible to humans to those too high-pitched for people to hear. The majority of these noises are still being studied today, with scientists only identifying a handful distinct sounds. These include the sounds made by small red flying foxes to warn others of their presence. Various mating noises used by either or both males and females during mating season have also been identified by scientists. Scientists have also discovered that during mating season, males of the species mark their preferred roosting places as a sort of chemically assisted communication. The small red flying fox is preyed upon by numerous predators. The sea eagle has the best track record, even catching small red flying foxes out of the air in mid-flight. There's also the carpet python, which scientists say can sneak into colonies of little red flying foxes unobserved. Once inside, the snake chooses its prey at random and coils itself around it, strangling it to death before eating. The Australian freshwater crocodile also preys on the little red flying fox, frequently lurking just beneath the surface of a body of water. When a small red flying fox flies down for a drink, the crocodile leaps up and takes its prey from the air. Crocodiles will also occasionally slither up to a tree where little red flying foxes sleep. The crocodiles then thrash around on the ground, disturbing and scaring their victim. They try to run, but in their haste, they frequently collide in mid-air. As a result, they collapse to the ground, helpless in the face of the voracious crocodiles. In the public eye, they have a bad reputation. Humans often see little red flying foxes as pests, particularly considering their tendency of eating any fruit they come across. Little red flying foxes are lured to fruit plantations and orchards, where they may wreak havoc on entire crops. Their enormous swarms also annoy campers and travelers in the wilderness. The vast number of droppings they leave around their roosting spots, in particular, force people to find other places to camp. That, or when a swarm of little red flying foxes appears at a well-established camp, the campers are frequently forced to relocate or risk being sprayed with droppings. Little red flying foxes can transmit a variety of diseases. Little red flying foxes, as mammals, can get rabies, which they can transmit to humans through bites or scratches with their talons. They can also get the Hendra virus, which causes lung sickness in horses and potentially meningitis in people. There's also the Australian bat Lissa virus, ABLV, a newly discovered rabies-like virus that has medical professionals alarmed. The Menangle virus, which causes severe flu-like symptoms in humans, stillbirths and congenital abnormalities in pigs, can also be transmitted by little red flying foxes. All of the diseases that small red flying foxes can carry and even spread have done little to improve their image in the eyes of humans. Ticks have the ability to parasitize them. Like rabies, ticks can parasitize the small red flying foxes since they are mammals. These ticks can then be passed on to other mammals, either directly to people or indirectly through mammals that have close contact with humans. This could provide infection vectors for diseases like Lyme disease, Q fever, and tularemia. Furthermore, because small red flying foxes live in Australia, they are vulnerable to Australian ticks. Australian ticks, unlike other ticks, carry venom that can cause tick paralysis in victims. The queen palm tree also causes problems for the little red flying fox. For one thing, small red flying foxes eat their fruits even when they are immature, which may contain poisons. This results in widespread casualties, including the wholesale extinction of entire swarms that feed on queen palm plantations. The tree's leaves and branches are extremely tough for the little red flying fox to rest on and can entangle them. They are either trapped and starved to death or suffer severe injuries while attempting to escape. Wounds, in particular, are very hazardous because they grow infected and cause the animal to die slowly. As a result, several local governments in northern and eastern Australia have advised citizens not to grow queen palms on their properties. Conservationists are having difficulty protecting the species. For one thing, because the species tends to migrate in huge groups, tracking individual members is quite difficult. Similarly, due to the vast size of their swarms, following an entire swarm of little red flying foxes quickly becomes impossible. Another barrier to maintaining the species is the age-old debate between conservation and economics. Conservationists encounter difficulties in gaining public support when people lose their jobs for the sake of wild animals. Swarms of small red flying foxes decimate fruit farmers' harvests in particular. Conservationists advocate against increasing development of wildness to conserve the habitats of animals in Australia as a whole. All of this, of course, comes at the expense of people's jobs and money. Naturally, this makes conservationists unpopular in the eyes of the general people. Conservationists have made several suggestions to prevent conflict between humans and small red flying foxes. Conservationists have attempted to identify common ground between nature's and man's demands. For one example, they emphasize that fruit producers no longer have to kill little red flying foxes that try to eat their produce. A simple net will enough to keep the animals away from the fruit. However, they also advise that those who use nets avoid using ones that would damage the animals. These include barbed wire netting and nets with small holes, which animals can easily become caught in. Conservationists have also stated that wildlife services exist and that people should contact them if they come across any of the little red flying foxes that have become entangled or injured. Within its borders, the Australian government has established statutory protections for flying foxes. Little red flying foxes do not normally fly into or live in cities, but human development has increased their urban population in recent years. As a result, the Australian government has authorised local governments to intervene and safeguard the animals from unnecessary injury when they come into contact with humans. These include the 1992 National Conservation Act and the 1999 Environment Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act. As a result, numerous local governments have launched their own conservation projects. One example is the Queensland state government's decision to construct artificial roosts for the creatures. This provides a home for small flying foxes without requiring them to trespass on human land. It is thought that by decreasing contacts between people and small red flying foxes, the harm caused by one side to the other will be reduced. Brisbane, in particular, has a rising urban fox population. This has generated issues for the city's human population, particularly in the suburbs. Swarms of little red flying foxes generate a lot of noise among themselves, which might interfere with sleep. It may also bother persons who are sensitive to noise, such as newborns, youngsters, and the elderly. The animals can also pose a direct hazard to human safety, especially because they naturally carry a variety of diseases. There are also the previously noted vast volumes of droppings that swarms leave behind, which pose a health risk. Large swarms flying in the open are equally dangerous. They can, in particular, impair vision, which is harmful for drivers. They could also fly into automobile windshields, inflicting damage or perhaps cause an accident. The city government has issued policies to safeguard the safety of both humans and flying foxes. The most basic is to cover one's waist, which keeps the aroma from attracting animals. They also suggest that people not leave their clothing out at night since it risks being damaged or dirty by the animals. People should keep their cars in a garage for the same reasons. If a garage is not accessible, they can cover them with washable covers. The city authority also warns residents not to approach or provoke small red flying foxes. While the animals typically avoid people, they, like all animals, can become hostile and attack if provoked. In locations where there are huge populations of small red flying foxes, the government also recommends using double-glazed windows. Their improved insulation would assist to keep the animals' noise at bay. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to our channel, since we will be covering a lot of similar content in the future. Till next time, stay curious.